What is going on, my lovely people, my Muay Thai people? We are back in the Muay Thai world as of yesterday. Transitioned from the boxing world to the Muay Thai world. Feeling nice and healthy. I apologize if I'm going to have any attacks of sneezing going on or any kind of stuffy nose that you hear over the microphone. I've actually been sick for the past like 9-10 days before this fight. Just getting rid of a chest infection and sinus issues. I've been having like sneeze attacks where people look at me really weird. But before the fight, you should have seen me. I was going over like uh, the closest thing I can find to people that need to perform and clear out their sinuses and throat and things like that were singers. So I was going into like singing forums, trying to figure out the best antidote to clearing out my sinuses so I can breathe for this fight last night. So yeah, I did everything from like Vicks, and I had two different vaporizers going on at night with different solutions and clearing out my sinuses with like the neti pot and taking medications and inhalers and shit like that just to make it work. And yeah, so whenever I have a hard time, I try to make the best of it. How's everything with you, my brother?
Dude, everything's good. I'm just antsy to like talk about whatever. What pissed me off is I was so ready to watch your boxing fight last night, and they had a test stream and everything before. I was like, yo, these guys are pro. They're doing a test stream. They're gonna get the second stream like down. No fucking way. It shot out like 5 seconds in, and then I was trying
Oh
to
no.
stream it for like an hour and a half, and I was like, all right, he's probably already fucking fault by now. But yeah, man. So tell me what happened. What was the fight? I mean, obviously you're very invested in it because you fought, but as an objective, taking a step back and kind of walking us through fight night, what happened? What happened is at a boxing promotion that's different than a Muay Thai promotion?
What happened that's different? Very similar. You know, the commission is late, even though all the fighters are there on time for weigh-ins. So you're waiting around to get weighed in. It was my first time going down to light heavyweight. I think that's like a podcast on its own to drop down a weight class and do it in a healthy way. I honestly felt really, really good at this weight. I feel like it pushed me to be really conscious nutritionally. It pushed me to get my conditioning in and dial everything in really, really well, time everything well, get the training in, and add extra work, do the extra credit. So, like I said, that could be a podcast on its own. Just cutting weight in a healthy way where you can still perform. It was one of the best times where I cut down to such a low weight because I cut from close to 20 pounds. I cut from 190. I was bouncing between 195 and 197 and all the way down to light heavyweight at 175. So that's about 22 pounds. And I was about 195 like 2 weeks ago. So within 2 weeks, slowly got down, progressed, and set everything up to the week of the fight where I can drop the weight. And even though it seems like a lot, this is probably the healthiest way I've ever done it. And yeah, I'll probably either write it out or we can do a full podcast on it. So whatever you guys are always the ones that kind of simulate everything and inspire whatever our pieces are. So I'd be interested if you'd rather have more of a written format, maybe like a downloadable thing, or if you just want to hear the audio version, or maybe both. I'd be
I think
interested to
uh,
know.
I think a good idea would be to have like a sample meal plan of how you uh, planned out your what was it like? How many weeks did you go on the diet to cut weight?
I was rather stringent from the beginning. I pretty much planned that I would be fully carbed up and full. I didn't really pay attention to the carbs and macros and any of the things that are too specific, and mostly to things that sat well in my stomach. I think that's more important than anything else, is that when you're going to training, anytime you're bloated, your stomach doesn't really feel good. And I feel like that happens a lot with those protein bars, a lot of the things that aren't whole foods that you prepare yourself. So I just made sure that I was, it's so simple, it's so straightforward. It's kind of like beating a dead horse, but everything goes from, principles. So the principles are just that you eat whole foods, from those outside aisles at the store. So that's what I was doing for the entire 6 weeks. But when it came closer, I would say with like the month of, I completely cut out whatever extra sugar could have been in anything. So I try to make sure I wasn't eating like, 3 bananas a day or anything like that. So I really cut out the sugar, keep the inflammation in the body down, especially because I was simultaneously as I'm training, I'm also recovering my knee. So I think all of these things together worked really well in unison, cutting out the sugars, recovering my knee, and at the same time cutting the weight. So I was really stringent with my physical therapy and running and things like that. And honestly, my knee feels amazing. Then when we got closer to the fight, that's when I started to cut down on the carbs, bigger uptake of water. And yeah, there's a lot of specifics that go into it, but it's rather general. Like there's a lot of specifics, but you go from having a lot, like I would load up on water, make sure I have a lot of carbs to sustain my training. But when it got closer to the date of the fight, I would stay more technical versus doing the hard work, kind of like the progressive, like just training throughout the camp, making sure that I'm kind of dialing down by the last week and the week of. It's less, I wouldn't say less work, but
tapering, you're tapering down your intense workload so you
I
can
wouldn't
focus.
kill myself to the point where I'm, walking around beat up sore every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Plus it's boxing. Honestly, it's in comparison, not bad. Like on the body, there's no knees that are hitting elbows and feet and shins that are hitting knees and elbows and things like that. So, I mean, I feel great. Everyone was talking about after the fight, they're like, man, I've never seen you spring up so quick and run around after a fight before, because, after the fight, there's, I have no swollen feet and ankles and things like that. So yeah, just cut down at the end. And from being so loaded up on everything and having a great training camp and always being nutritionally sound, full, recovered, and then the week of the fight, being able to just kind of perform and tone it down, like it just takes discipline, going from having a fuckload of carbs and whatever you want, well, not whatever you want, but the amount of food, the serving sizes, and just cutting them down. It takes a little discipline, but the second you change, it's rather simple.
So we're doing this podcast live on Facebook for those who are listening, and we got a couple good questions I figure we kind of riff off of, because Adrian was talking about the keto diet. Have you ever tried the keto diet? And I have, but I haven't really like known whether or not I'm in ketosis or not. I just kind of eaten keto food, the keto diet essentially, but I haven't like gone hardcore into it. But I have noticed that your body does it takes a little bit of an adjustment for it to get used to using healthy fats more as your sole source of energy as opposed to carbs. But once you get past that initial rough phase, you actually can go pretty well with just eating like a keto diet. At least me personally. Everyone else is different, obviously. Are you mainly eating keto when you cut weight? Because I didn't know that's what I was doing. That's essentially what I was doing when I'm cutting weight.
Yeah. At the end, I think we're just addicted to carbs. That's what I think. I mean, I know I am. I don't know if this is true. This may be bro science, even though a girl said it to me, that you're that carbohydrates or sugars, which carbohydrates turn into,
they break down.
They break down
sugars
into, are more or just as addictive as cocaine is. And honestly, I would probably agree, because I feel my body literally just craving it, wanting it if I have it early in the day. And that's why I kind of go into this intermittent fasting mode, where from pretty much 9 to 10 o'clock at night, that's my cutoff period. And then I won't eat till the next day, till around at least 12. Sometimes I extend it out to 2. depends on when I get my workout in. So essentially in the morning, I only have water, liquids. I may have a green shake. Most of the time I don't. A lot of times it'll just be coffee and water, coffee and water. Then after my first workout, then I'll have something to kind of refuel, especially like a green shake or something, or my first meal if it's already like 1 or 2 o'clock, and then I won't eat again until after my second session. So essentially I'm only eating to refuel my body. And at night during the training camp, I have carbs after the second training session, because I feel like then the next day if I wake up, I don't need them. You know, it's like I refueled my body at night after my second training session. It's like my body's starving for it. I just finished 3 hours of training. My body's starving for the sugar. So I wake up the next morning and I'm good to go for the whole day. And then, then I'm just pretty much on all fast, especially the week of the fight, like this week. No carbs. So essentially I was like in ketosis for like you said, I don't keep track of, you know, what my body's levels are or anything like that. But I would guess that, you know, without having any sugar for almost 10 straight days, I would probably hit that. They say it takes maybe up to 2 weeks. That, I mean, it's all over the place, but I didn't have any for, I would say, probably 10 days or so.
All right, so let's move forward. Let's get past this nutrition talk and let's get to the fucking fight, man. What happened with the fight? Like, how did it all go down?
Felt great backstage. I felt like my gas was amazing, especially with all the chest infection, everything going on. It being a first boxing fight, honestly, I felt like I deserved it. Mentally, I feel really strong. I don't feel like the switch was very difficult at all. If anything, I think it's easier to just tone it down and really focus on 2 weapons versus 8. And in the first round, I almost finished the fight. I was kind of waiting for the right shot. I was being rather patient, and then I caught a counter left hand, and it really rocked him hard. So I just kill mode came after him, but I was patient. I kind of learned from that Brett fight when I hurt Brett and could have finished him, and I got too excited. So that's just experience speaking. I wanted to learn from that, and I feel like I did. So I kind of stood at the end of my punches, even though I rocked him. And then I hurt him really hard again. I mean, I thought it was a knockout shot, but he bounced off the ropes, and it looked like he went out for a second, but he hit the ropes, and the ropes kind of bounced him back, and he like came back awake and got his hands back up, and I shot through the guard again, hurt him again, and then the bell went off. And then there was kind of a confusion, like, oh, go stand in the corner, don't go stand in the corner, even though he was going on his chair, like whether there's going to be a count or not. So that was kind of weird. And then also that round, he got a good extra 30 to 45 seconds on the stool. You know, the refs are like, okay, like the break is over, and he's still sitting on the stool. Very similar. Have you seen that? They call it stool gate, of when Tim Kennedy fought homie that fought last night. What's his name? The Brazilian fighter.
He just won. He just fucking won.
Against Luke. He knocked out Luke Rockhold last night.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Romero.
There you go. Yoel.
Yoel Romero. Yeah. It was like that. I'm sitting there and I'm talking to the ref. I'm like, ref. And he just won't look at me. And it looks like he wants to look at me, but then he like realized that I'm yelling at him. Like, what are you doing? And he turned back. And this happened every single round. So you can tell that his conditioning was on the same par as mine. And he literally every single round got a good at least 20 to 30 seconds on the stool while I was just standing waiting. So I'm like yelling at the referee, and he just wouldn't even look at me in the eyes. And then, oh yeah, then the first round, something happened in his corner. So then he was on the stool, got off the stool. Then they put us in neutral corner before they started the fight. Like they didn't start the fight from his corner and my corner. They took the time for us to switch corners to go to neutral corners, like after the round that I hurt him. And then second round, more of the same. We're kind of throwing shots into each other's guard, back and forth, getting in clinch situations. Again, I landed a couple hard counter punches. I thought I hurt him. He threw some hard shots, but everything kind of at my gloves. I mean, it could have looked nice. So if any round you can give, be super nice to give him, maybe 2, even though he still got rocked. And then in the third, kind of same story. And then in the fourth is when he got tired and he got rocked. 3 times I hurt him. It was very, very obvious. The whole theater booed so it was a draw decision. The whole theater booed. I'm not anyone to complain. If I can see any side of the story where I could have lost the fight, I'll blame myself, because honestly, to me, that's easier. It's not easier to blame someone else because it's not in my control. I like having things in my control, so I'd rather be able to blame myself and be like, fuck, man, I could have done this and that, and then I could have won the fight. But I try to look for any of those things, and I can't think of a single one. I was one of the only white people in that entire arena. And after the fight, the people that were coming up, there was some girls. The comment of the night was the Spanish girl came up to me in the middle of everyone in the whole stage, and she's like, "I'm a Boricua, and homie, you got robbed," because my opponent was Puerto Rican, and the whole crowd was Puerto Rican, and that everyone was cheering for me after. And I mean, it was amazing. The support. They're
it's a
very
rocky
passionate.
Story, dude. It's like turning Russia.
Yeah. It was actually really nice after, because they're so passionate. It's not like these rowdy crowds here. Let's say we go to Foxwoods, Lion Fire, you go to these MMA shows that are local. Man, the Spanish community is so passionate about boxing. It's insane. They're into it. They know it's like the ties with Thai boxing. You know what I mean? Spanish community around boxing, they're so passionate, they're educated, so they come up to you and they show you the love that you deserve, even as a amateur fighter or low level pro. I mean, they just show you so much love. So when they came up after, I mean, I had the whole crowd. When I was walking through the crowd, to find my friends, everyone getting stopped, and the whole crowd getting up to clap, and so just passionate, loud and passionate. It was nice to see. Yeah. So this is part of the game. I guess it'll essentially transition into the topic of the main topic of this podcast.
Well, before you do that, is there any video of the fight so people can watch it if they wanted to?
So there's a live stream. If you look up Hartford Boxing Center, there's 3 live streams on there. One of them is of my fight. Kind of harder to see, and another person had a live stream as well, but there's a professional video that was done by Super Elite Boxing, the one that you were trying to get the stream from. They posted the main event highlights so far, but I believe that they recorded all the fights in HD, so sweet. I'll hopefully have the link up for you guys. Yeah, just stay on top of it on email, or if you have my athlete page, Paul Reaper, the Limitless Project, Paul Reaper Banasiak, I'll definitely post it on there. Or if you're on my email list through muaythaiathlete.com, I'll link it up to my email list as well. So yeah, but as of right now, it's just the live videos that are kind of from further away. You can still kind of tell what's landing and what's going on. But
so what's the main topic, man? What are we talking about today in the Muay Thai Guys podcast?
Turning pro is definitely a topic that a lot of us, I mean, both you and I'm sure, I don't know how much you get this question, but I do have people asking me about turning pro, getting sponsors, etc. And there's a lot of talent that's coming up right now, especially the guys that are really passionate. It's one of two things. It's either a really high level amateur that's starting to have a hard time finding more fights, someone that's really passionate about becoming a professional and really making a name, and maybe they do have a lot of talent. And then there's also the guys that haven't even really started fighting and they're already talking about becoming a professional and champion and all that. It's one of the two. So I think the dark side of all this doesn't really affect the guys that are deep in it, like the high level amateurs looking to turn pro. The reality of it, I don't think would affect them. However, I do think it would affect the guys and kind of weed out the ones that are talking about becoming a professional and a champion and making money doing this before they've even really had an amateur fight or established themselves as amateurs. You know, like if you have fights to go, you should highly reconsider your focus and your next goal. I don't think your next goal and worry and energy should be placed upon your professional career when you haven't established your amateur career yet. I mean, anything in life takes time. You can't expect to really. Yeah. You know, there was a kind of a controversial post someone made. I guess Bellator came out with someone getting a paycheck and it was like for $250. And then Primo, who is a rather high level coach here in the US as well, he came out saying, yeah, but listen, guys, he was like 1-1 or 0-1 as an amateur going pro. So he's like, normally he would just continue as an amateur and not get paid at all. So for him to get $250, it's like he never established himself. There's no reason to pay this kid anything. Like any kind of penny sounds good to him. He's not really a professional fighter, even though, you know, his getting contracted is one. And I guess that kind of changed my view because I feel like as a human, you know, a standard should be a little higher than $250, especially coming from such a huge name like Bellator.
Yeah, that's a whole interesting topic. But ultimately, when it comes to becoming professional, I mean, I didn't even think about that though. So, because I saw the post, but I didn't really know much context behind it. I just kind of scrolled past it. And now that I know a little bit more, I don't really know how I feel about that. But ultimately, I mean, if you're going to be fighting on a professional show, you should get paid. I mean, who the fuck knows, man? I really don't know. But ultimately, I think obviously the people who actually put in the time and the effort and the years in becoming a professional fighter, those are the ones that we should be worrying about more, whether or not they get paid and how much they get paid, as opposed to the low level amateurs who want to jump the gun and jump into the pro just to make a little bit of money. I mean, there's a time and place for everything. And I mean, it's up to you and your coaches whether or not you should go pro. But when it comes down to it, like you were saying, I think the longer you can stay amateur, the better in a way. Because this way, once you turn pro, like my buddy Chris, he turned pro because he started running out of fights as an amateur,
Yeah.
and now that he's turned pro, he gets like 2 fights a year maybe, because promotions are so stingent with the amount of fight cards you can be on. It's hard to get on fight cards. There's not a lot of top promotions that are going to be paying you at all, and so it's hard to get the right matchups. It's hard to get a matchup, period, and it's just hard to stay as consistent as you would as if you're an amateur fighting in tournaments, being able to fight on local shows, to interclubs, that kind of stuff. Because once you turn pro, I mean, there's no going back. And in hindsight, I wish I kind of waited a little bit longer too, because I feel like I jumped the gun in a sense. But either way, I got to live with it and learn from it. And that's ultimately what you got to just do, is you got to make a decision one way or another. But I think the better decision in my hindsight 2020 is be amateur as long as you can, until you feel like, all right, I've like exhausted my opponents in my area, and it's time to go to the next level.
I think that's great advice because you're coming from living it. This is Nish Shobo. Listening to his last episode, it was really inspiring because that's the way I like to learn as well. Like there are a lot of people that are really good at reading things and creating, thoughts and patterns and creating information for other people, but they're reiterating something that they learned, but they never felt. So it's like relaying something you felt and you've been through is a better example, I think. So there's the romanticism of it all, which I think that's the main part that a lot of people have to get over, is that it is very romantic. The professional, being a professional fighter, you're a professional athlete now, and the persona of that. But the reality is much different. Meaning, these are some of the things that you just have to think about before you turn pro. Are you willing to work full-time, part-time while you're training on top of it? So it's something has to go. Is it your social life? Is it your performance? Or is it finances? Because if you don't have a huge following, and I mean huge, like this is 1% of professional fighters will be able to make above a couple $1,000s for a fight. Most of the times, if you're on a local card, you're a professional fighter at the end of the card, meaning like you're the only pro at the end, you're going to get between $400 and $700. Okay. So I don't know what promotion it is. If you're making your debut on a big one, let's say that comes to Connecticut, sometimes you might get 700, 750. Okay.
If 1,000 tops, like 1,000 tops.
That's if you sell tickets, you have a great following, and you're paying for yourself. Then over years of time where you create a name for yourself. Okay. And also think about the fact that, you might get that 1,000 tops, and then they're going to want to lock you into a contract. You're in a contract. You're going to fight three. Thank you, God. I fight 3 times a year. That's less than a month's rent. Take away 10% for your manager or coach. Take away another 15, 20. Take away another 20% for your taxes. You're not making anything, because on top of it, you have to go through, nutrition, medicals, a bunch of other things. So that's what you have to think about. Are you willing to give up some of your finances? Are you willing to give up your social life? Because one of those things has to go. Because if you're gambling, right? If you're at the bottom and you want to make it to the top, what do? You got to give up your job, because you got to train full time. To get to the top, there's no way around it. You got to train twice a day, 2 to 3 hours per session, 6 hours, because that's what those guys are doing. So if you're here and you're trying to chase them and they're still doing 6-7 hours and they're already at the top because they're making enough money to be there and not have to work full time, then you got to let go and pretty much go into negative, or be really creative with your ventures, right? So you either have to do a side job, you have to freelance, you have to have some type of skill set that you can trade for money, right? While you make your grind up, while you train 6 and 7 hours. You can be like Bazooka Joe, where you literally have no other life between waking up, running, training, going to work, getting out of work, training, eating, going to bed. So obviously social life, family, having a girlfriend, whatever it is going to take a backseat. Those people are going to be upset. So you have to be able to deal with that. Being
it really
a professional
comes down to priorities. You have to figure out what's your life's priorities. Is it to become a professional fighter, to become a world champion, or is it to provide for your family, or is your passion really in Muay Thai? This is where you really have to start questioning it, because if you're not fucking all into it, it's not a lucrative career. It's going to be hard to fucking make a living doing Muay Thai. Like MMA, even MMA is super fucking hard. Unless you're at the top tier in Bellator or UFC or maybe ONE FC, you're not making enough to really break the poverty line essentially, because you're going to be paying out most of it to your coaches, to your training, to your food, all that kind of stuff. And so unless you're a Conor McGregor or Floyd Mayweather or someone at the top, that's that's the payoff. Is if you're someone at the top, you're making fucking bank. But like you said, those guys are training. They've been training twice a day, 6 hours a day, forever. So when are you going to make the move? And when you make that move, you have to be aware, you're going to be a broke bitch for a little while, and you're going to have to hustle hard in between, and you're going to have to, like you said, sacrifice social life. Like when I was, so I was working full time, I was training full time, and I was trying to start Muay Thai guy part time. And in between that, I had no social life. Are you fucking kidding me? Like every once in a while, maybe on like a Saturday night, I'll be able to go out for a minute, But then other than that, Sunday, there's no off days. When it comes down to like being great in whatever it is, there's no fucking off days. You're always trying to get that 1% better each and every day. It's the whole concept of like building a huge wall and just laying one brick at a time. Because if you try to build a wall in one day, you get burnt out, get tired. But it's a consistent discipline. And I don't think a lot of people know that that's what becoming a pro kind of entails, is that it's kind of your life now if you want to do it seriously. I mean, if you want to be a pro fighter just to say you're a pro fighter and kind of have a few pro fights and tell people you're a pro fighter and stuff, and not really do anything meaningful in the sport, then like, yeah, go do it and try your best, but know that you're leaving a lot on the table by not going all in. And I don't know about you. Actually, I do know about you. You're an all or nothing kind of guy. It's like all the chips are in or they're not. Like I'm not making a small bet here or there. I'm not going halfway in. Like I'm fucking all in. Because like, what's the point otherwise? Knowing that you had some reserve in the back trying to hold you back. You could have given it that much more. I'd rather lose a fight knowing I trained as much as I could. I was as disciplined as I could, and there was nothing else I could do that fight. I would much rather take that than an easy win where I'm training half-fast and not really doing shit. I mean, it all kind of comes full circle, and I kind of went off in a bunch of different tangents, but I think it's all coherent, right?
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, and especially the transition. So you mentioned grinding, pretty much trying to create Muay Thai guy, working, trying to do a bunch of different endeavors at the same time while you're training, and that's a huge part of it. Even though we're talking about this all or nothing mentality, you have to know when that switch is appropriate. You said I'm an extreme person. I either go all or nothing. I was all in, but that doesn't mean that the second I said, oh, I'm all in, I just quit my job. I had no money in the bank and I did nothing. Now, since I was like 17, I still have money in my savings account from when I was like 17 years old, because I knew I wanted to do something later on in my life and invest into it. So yeah, maybe you can't start and go backwards to when you're 17 working while going to school where you have less expenses. But there was a time where I was in college, but I was still working 25 hours a week. I was still getting up in the morning to get a workout in before I go to school, then go to work, and then train again late at night, and sleeping at the gym a lot of the nights as well, while trying to start Muay Thai Athlete and the podcast and different things. Trying to hold a relationship, obviously some of those things, went to the wayside. But I found out when I can actually transition, and I feel like maybe I even did it a little bit early. Actually, I don't regret it, but I am kind of starting to take those steps backwards. So I forget which podcast it was, but once again, on Sports Motivation Podcast, we refer back to this one a lot. So even though you listen to us, I mean, there's more to go around. Sports Motivation Podcast with Nee Shobo.
True.
Amazing
He
stuff.
just speaks real shit. Just real. He's just a real dude, and he's very practical and well spoken. Yeah. What podcast are you talking about?
He talks about that sometimes it's a stupid fucking move to just go all in. It's like where they talk about being an entrepreneur and like you have a family and stuff like that. It's like, if you fucking want it, you just fucking get rid of everything and sell everything you have and then invest it all, into your business. It's like sometimes the smarter plan and the harder thing to do, like the more passionate thing to do and going all in, actually does mean still working part-time while you transition, or going from full-time, maybe taking off one thing at a time while you earn. But you
need
also
your
have to
training wheels. You need your
you
training
need your
wheels,
training wheels, and you have to ask
and just jump on the bike.
but you have to ask yourself, are you actually in a comfortable place and you're just afraid to let go of some of that comfort? Because I know a lot of people like that, where they're working full time and they have enough money in the bank, but they're too secure. Like they don't want to let go of what they have. So it's like
Comfort is easy.
You have to risk some of it, but you also have to ask yourself, like, once again, it's a balance. So as you're going, the more you are able to put away, then you can start working a little bit less, up your training a little bit more, and find your way in. And essentially, we had one of the people just commenting, since we're live here on Facebook, talking about going to Thailand to just kind of break that rhythm. And there's a lot of people that do that. Yeah, bringing that boat. I mean, that's essentially what I did. I said, I'm going pro. I need to get to that higher level. I saved a shitload of money and I went, and thank God, things worked out for me. I think no one will have any kind of regret that they went for that, whether it's 6 months or a year, they go back. But you also don't want to be, my friend Sturgos is in a situation where he did that. He burnt that boat, and now he's back to accruing money again for a whole straight year where he's not training. So maybe he did it a little bit early, So, and now it's a whole year off without training and starting over before he can like go and do the extremes again.
I think it's a lot about creating systems around your life that help keep everything balanced and afloat. Because if you don't have these systems in place, then you're constantly having to remind yourself about everything going on, and you constantly have to keep taking your focus off and on to all these different things because they're not running by themselves. But once you get these systems that are just kind of they're just there and they work for you, they bring in money, or they help you with your social life, or whatever the system is, or your health, your nutrition, you don't have to think about it as much. And so you can save your mental energy and your physical energy for training, for entrepreneurship, for other endeavors that you want to pursue. And I think it really, talk about becoming a pro fighter, you have to systemize your training. You have to prioritize your training. And by doing that, a lot of people will just jump into training and be like, yo, I just got to train harder and I got to train more. And that's a good mindset. Like, obviously,
prerequisite.
to be prerequisite. Exactly. Like, you have to do that anyway. But the people who separate themselves from the average to the great are the people who plan and strategize what they're going to be working on this training session, how they're going to implement their strength and conditioning, how their nutrition is going to look based around their training sessions, what kind of defense they're going to be focusing on, so on and so forth. And then once you start to realize that that's what you have to do just for your training, you actually have to do that with like every other area of your life as well, if you want it to all be running automatically and doing well and steadily growing at a good increment. But it's hard. It's hard to have the patience to plan, to actually sit aside and outline all this stuff. And a lot of people don't know how to even do that. Like, where do they even start? And that's where like Nee's podcast is such a valuable resource, because he gives you like these systems that he's taught me. And I didn't even realize I was doing some of these. Like, these were some of the things that like I was doing without consciously knowing I was doing them. They were just a part of my routine. But now that I know I'm doing them, I'm able to fine tune them a little bit more and really optimize them. And so, yeah, just coming back full circle to, the whole topic, which is turning pro. Oh, actually, speaking of turning pro, have you ever read the book Turning Pro by Stephen Pressfield?
I have not.
That is a good book. It's
Another recommendation. Every
yeah,
podcast, we're going to start a Muay Thai Guys book club.
There you go. But seriously, Turning Pro, Stephen Pressfield. He also wrote The Art of War. No, The War of Art. The War of Art. Yeah, The War of Art. Anyway, the whole concept. Yeah, the idea of turning pro is that it's just like a mindset shift. So like he was writing it in the context of trying to become a professional writer. Like, all right, I'm not getting paid now, but I have to be a professional if I want to get paid. I can't be an amateur
Oh,
during the times I'm
yeah.
trying to make money. I have to act like I'm a professional. So I need to work from 9 to 5, do this. I need to write X amount of words, so on and so forth. And so the same goes with Muay Thai and fighting, or anything that you're doing. You have to turn pro. You have to develop the discipline and mindset that, like, yo, this is like your profession now. So if you want to make money off it, you might not be making money now. You have to be on your craft day in and day out and make it something that you really strive to perfect. And you have to keep evolving and keep growing, because that's the name of the game, man. Whether it's Muay Thai or business or relationships or school, like you're trying to do your best, and you're always trying to improve. And in order to do that, you have to have you can't just go with the flow. I mean, you can. Eddie Abasolo is really good at that. Some people can, but when it comes down to like actually being able to see the steps that you need to take in order to get to your vision, which you should have a clear idea of what your vision is. Otherwise, you're just kind of going through the motions without any real destination to be striving towards. So it's hard to create the systems and all the goals that you need in order to get to that vision if you don't have it. So
I think that was a perfect way of putting it, is to be a professional before you're actually getting paid and doing it. You have to test those waters, like you still have your safety net. And I think then, burning the boat is great because then you have no other choice. But do you know what kind of stressors that creates? I mean, me having the stressors of like, am I going to be able to make it this month or whatever it is? I mean, that fucking weighs on you versus using that energy towards your training. Having that safety net a lot of the times helps you not only in having less stress and more energy for training, but when it comes to making deals with promoters, doing sponsorships and things like that, you don't have to take on things because you don't have to. So, I don't have to sign this with this promotion because this promotion is offering me, let's say, double. But when neither one, let's say, can come to an agreement, or someone is being a child in the conversation, then it's okay. I can walk away. Having that ship still there that you can get back on. You're like, no, I have a pretty good island over there too. So maybe I don't want to burn the boat because I have a pretty good island over here. There's always choices, especially if you have a good product. When you have a good product, you have to be willing to walk away from some of the deals. The first guy might offer you only this much. You're like, okay, I believe you have to know your worth. You have to know what you're worth. So yeah, turning pro, I think there are a few things you just got to keep in mind. Are you willing to test it out first? Because I hear a lot of people, well, once I turn pro, I will start working hard, or whatever it is. Or like once I get a fight, that's when I'll start training. I mean, I have students in class. I'm like, if you show up, I'll give you a fight. They're like, well, if I had a fight, I'd show up more.
It's a paradox.
I don't know that. No, man. I'm your trainer. I need to see the hard work, and I have guys. This is a great example. I wanted to somehow formulate this into a meme or a post where someone outworks me, let's say in a session, like they put in an extra fucking 50 crunches or some bullshit, right? Or they see me on the bag and they're working like a little harder. They're like, oh, you're a little slower today. And I'm like, yeah. I have no ego, so it doesn't matter to me. But those guys that like come back in the gym after getting 3 fucking weeks off and now like they're going fucking sick because they're, let's say, getting ready for their 6-week camp. So they go sick in their 6-week camp to get in shape. Man, I've been doing what you're doing, maybe at like 10% lower for the past 7 straight years without disappearing into the jungle for like months at a time in between fights. So, you can come in and have your ego and like fucking push it real hard in front of me for, an extra round and like make your little comments. But, there's a reason why some people are ahead.
I think a great quote from George St. Pierre had to do with whether someone asked him if he considers himself a fighter or a martial artist, and he was going about like, "Yo, I'm a martial artist. Martial artists train for life. This is just what I do." Where fighters train for a fight. And I think if you really want to be a successful fighter, you have to become a disciplined martial artist where it just becomes a part of your life. It's a lifestyle. And that's why Knockmore Nation and everything we pretty much preach. It's just like the way that Muay Thai has helped shape our lives and made it better in the sense that we're more purposeful. We have goals and drive to reach these goals. We're meeting a lot of new people. We're more healthy because we have to fucking know our nutrition, cutting fights. We're training twice a day, so we're physically in amazing shape. Like Muay Thai is a lifestyle, and if you want it to be a profession, it has to be your lifestyle. Everything needs to kind of revolve around that. That needs to be a top priority because you don't play Muay Thai. You don't fucking play
Mm,
Muay Thai. You know, you
mm.
fight, and it's a sport. It's a fucking dangerous sport though, and it's not something you could dick around in. And the same goes with like football or any other extreme sports. Like if you slack off or you make excuses or you just lose focus for just a second, that could mean the difference between brain damage or broken leg or broken arm and not getting hurt and winning a fight. You know, so I mean, all this is obviously easier said than done. And I wish I have had more discipline and consistency in my life as well when it comes to my training. But all you can do is really take a step back and realize what you need to do now. Because you can like dwell in the past and always think like, oh shit, man, I'm too old to start fighting now. I got a lot of people like in their mid-20s asking me like, oh, is it too late to think of become a professional fighter? I'm like, no, dude, like no. Like I have people like 18-year-olds ask me if they're too late to start. I'm like, what the fuck's wrong with you? I just want to smack you sometimes, you know? And it's never too late to make Muay Thai a part of your lifestyle because whether you do it for professional reasons and you want to become a professional champion and travel the world fighting all over the world, or you just want to do it because it makes you feel good, it surrounds you with really cool like-minded people, it makes you healthier and more conscious, whatever it is, don't half-ass it. I mean, that's what it really comes down to. Because if you half-ass it, then you're just not getting the true benefits from it. So even if you can only train 3 times a week, when you train 3 times a week, oh, you know what drives me fucking crazy is this one guy at my gym. He comes in like 3 times a week and he talks about he wants to fight one day. I'm like, all right, cool. He'll be doing like pad work and stuff, and hear his phone go off and go answer his phone. And I'm like, dude, what the fuck are you doing? Like, you
In the
don't
middle of
do
class,
that.
yeah.
Like, yeah, like what you like? It doesn't make any sense. And like people like that think that they're ready to fight. And I guess it's a good thing that they have the confidence, but it's fucking.
That changes the environment in the class. You know,
Oh, it drives me
I don't get
crazy.
upset because I'm like, all right, you're losing out yourself. You know, you broke your focus. It's like that, the book we went over, Deep Work. Anytime you break your focus, it takes time to kind of recenter yourself and get back in that flow state. So it's like, you know, he broke it. He's not going to get as much benefit. Sucks for him. That's his choice. But then also other people take example of that. So
That's the
the
biggest
rest of
thing.
the
It's a ripple
class,
effect, you know.
yeah, it's a ripple effect across the entire class. And yeah, same thing comes with that. It's like I have people asking like, "Oh, should I just quit my job and start fighting?" While they haven't done the fundamental things of showing that they can even work hard. And it's like out here, especially in the States, okay? If you're not in New York or California where gyms are open 24 fucking 7, what are you quitting your job for to fight? Because you're going to get 2 hours of work in a day. So what are you doing in the other hours of the day? Because trust me, I've been there where I wasn't working and I get my session in the morning and then I have my session in at night. Maybe I have some clients. And then what's in the middle of the day? While I could be working and making money. So what are you quitting your job for? When you're in the States, you're not fucking training 8 hours a day. There's no one to hold pads for you. So you're creating your own hours. So work, train, and then you can quit once you're a fucking superstar. But unless you're a superstar, there's no reason to do that.
You talk about moving to Thailand and stuff too. If you would do that and you're not able to save up money, then you'll never be able to get the amount and quality type of training that you need in order to get to that next level that you're trying to get to. So by neglecting the basic fundamentals of living in America or any westernized countries, that you got to work, you know, you got to make money somehow. You might as well make the most of your time, because time is like the most valuable resource. Time helps you get more money, and then more money gives you more freedom to be able to do what you want to do. And if what you want to do is be in Thailand and train and fight full time, then you got to make money. Yeah, money's the root of all evil, all that bullshit. And yeah, it's fucking stupid, but at the same time, it's reality. It's the way of the world. You have to deal with it one way or another. And like, I'm an anti-conformist. I pride myself on that shit, but I conform in many aspects, because if you don't, then you'll die. You'll not survive, you know, in the type of society and lifestyle we're in. So if you want to go pro and you want to be the best, it really comes down to, I mean, Austin Pierce, who's been commenting on our feed a lot here, he's going all in and moving to Thailand. He saved up money and everything. You have to have that kind of plan. You need some type of plan to keep you sustained throughout that time. And then you also need, saving money is good, but you need a way to make money. And so being able to be resourceful in a sense where you could be a graphic designer, or you could do some freelance writing, or you could do some video editing, or you could do some type of work that is valuable to people online, where you could do at any part of the world. I mean, that's how me and you are able to travel all the time and do what we do, is that our skill sets allow us to build our income, so we're able to go wherever we want and still have some type of money. And I think a lot of people overlook that. They go like, what kind of jobs can I get in Thailand? And not a lot, not a fucking lot. And if you're going to get a job in Thailand, that's going to take away from your training. So why are you even going to fucking Thailand then? Are you going to Thailand to fight full time? Because if you are, you can't work. You can't work and keep up with them. No way. No fucking way. You might be able to teach English part-time, but even that's going to take away from some of your training. That's what some people do.
That's probably the one balance you can get is the teaching English.
But I think the best way to work it out is develop a skill that can be freelanced online, because then you work whatever hours you want to work. It's not going to affect your training. It's not going to take time out of your day. And I know we're beating a dead horse with a stick, or whatever, being the dead horse. I think that's the saying. It's just being a dead horse. Yeah, that's kind of fucked up. But anyway, we're just kind of going over the fact that, like, when you decide to take this seriously, it just kind of, it is an all-in mindset, but at the same time, you have to have the smarts and the awareness to know that, like, not everything works out the way you plan it. And so you have to have some type of backup plan or systems in place where if shit hits the fan in Thailand, you break your leg, you're out. You can't fight for a year. Now what? You know, you have to be ready for the obstacles that are going to happen. That's a whole nother thing. Like, what about injuries? And then you can't fight, so you can't get paid. Now what? Now what the fuck are you going to do? You know?
I mean, that happened to me. I broke my face. And I was expecting to fight every single, few weeks. I didn't fight for 3 months.
Yeah, and that's going to be part of the game, especially if you're trying to fight consistently, and especially if you're trying to reach the top. You're going to be fighting dudes who can break your nose or fucking hurt you, you know? I mean, it's going to be ups and downs. So I think Ray Dalio, he wrote a book called Principles, and Nee talks about this a lot. And one of the principles is, like, you find out your goal or your vision, whatever it is, and the next thing you do is find out all the obstacles that are going to get in your way, or that could possibly get in your way. So this way you can figure out ways to either avoid those obstacles, or when they come to fruition, you're actually able to adjust accordingly because you already have a plan.
The solutions?
Exactly. And so I think one thing, so I'm taking Nee's Killer Instinct coaching group, which has been great, and Sylvie hooked me up with that, which I really appreciate. A lot of things that I've been learning from that is you just got to plan, man. The more detailed you are with planning your life, your training, your nutrition, your work, your relationships, whatever it is, the more you're able to actually put some time and thought into it, the better it's going to be. And it seems like such a fucking simple concept, but most people are too busy watching TV or scrolling through Instagram or doing whatever it is instead of taking the time to do some deep work, but doing deep work on yourself and your life, and not just doing work for the sake of doing work, but doing stuff that's actually going to affect you on like a deeper level. And I think if there's one thing to take away from this kind of podcast is if you're going to go pro, you better have a fucking plan. Like you better have
look at all
like
the
that shit
obstacles.
laid out.
I mean, here's a beautiful example. I fucked up my knee. I'm a professional fighter. I expected to fight again, hopefully January, February. So my knee got messed up. What are the things that I can control? I can do pro boxing, man. I've learned so much in this camp, just about how my feet move, how the different mistakes I make, like staying in on someone. Like you pay different prices for the mistakes you make, like in boxing, depending on your distancing and things like that. But I was able to fine tune such small details because a lot of the training was on my own. A lot of the training was sparring with the boxers, and it wasn't just with a coach hitting pads hard, you know? So I was able to really dial in on certain things that I probably wouldn't when I'm focusing on, all right, I got to clinch for this long. I got to do this for this long. I got to do this for this long. Like I got real deep work when it comes to footwork, distancing, using my angles, just where am I in proximity to my opponent. A lot of these things that I'm hyper aware of now and that are going to translate into my Thai boxing. And I'm really excited to put them back in. So now it's like replanning. It's like, okay, that was my focus. It was this fight. The fight is over. These are the things I learned. Okay, what is the next goal? Obviously, it's implementing them into my Muay Thai game. So putting them together. And then, all right, what's the next goal with Muay Thai? While I am still keeping progress going, you know, healing up my knee, still staying sharp with the things that I can do. And moving forward from there, just making a lot of goals for this year. And every checkpoint, you know, even though I have ultimate goals, like fucking be the best ever, you know, the general stuff like that, you know, I have this checkpoint. Okay, cool. This is what happened. This is this was the resolution. This was the result of what happened. All right. How do we improve upon that now? Moving into the next fight. What are the opportunities? Weighing out the opportunities. And, again, looking at the pros and cons of what's going to happen. So even though for me, it's something different than it is for an amateur fighter to consider, it's okay. If I do this, if I sign with this promotion, how much is that going to limit me? Like that's another thing when you turn pro, you got to think about that. Like, a lot of the time being the best fighter doesn't mean you get the best paid. Being with the biggest promotion doesn't mean it's gonna elevate you as high. So these are the things I'm thinking about. So you guys are on this journey with us. You're on the journey with me. I'm thinking about if I sign with this promotion and I only fight 3 times a year, is it better if I go on smaller ones that less people might see? I might not really get paid, but I'm becoming something that you can't avoid later on, meaning I'm a fighter that you're gonna want because I'm at the top. I'm beating everyone, including the people in your promotion. I'm better than them. You know what I'm saying? So even though during this year, next year, however many years, it doesn't matter. Inevitably, let's say I'm getting 10 fights a year. While there, I could have gotten 3, kind of bouncing back and forth, like figuring out, like, am I getting better, not getting better? Maybe I'm getting easy fights. And then instead, I'm fucking back here in someone's backyard fighting killers every month, every 2 months. And I'm just stacking bodies. And then I come out of that while you've been chilling up in the castle doing your thing, right? Like now I'm coming to raid. and it's time. It's like there's rows of bodies behind me and I have a lot of experience from putting them down. So, I mean, that's me. Like, oh, I couldn't get a Muay Thai fight. Cool. Kickboxing, 6 days notice. Cool. Okay, I'm injured. Boxing fight. Now let's go back to Muay Thai. Let's put it all together. Obviously, I'm a better fighter than I was 6 months ago versus I could have waited around 6-7 months. You were talking about Chris. He hasn't been, has been signed. He hasn't been able to fight for 7 months. So take these things into consideration. These might be your obstacles. You got to think, do I want to be the best fighter? Do I want to be the best paid? Do I just want to have like my name and be gone? Or, do I want to look at it more long-term? What are the things I want to do alongside being a professional? When it comes to sponsorships, I'm going to tell you right now, you're not going to get any unless you're on a televised promotion. Unless you have a great community. So a lot of the Spanish guys here, right? Like the Spanish community is fucking strong, man. Like, so when they box, a lot of the local shops, because they're friends, the barber shop, whoever is the local, Spanish insurance agent, whatever it is, they link up together, they network, they do as a family. So, they might toss them a couple $100 to do the advertisement, things like that. So unless you have like that strong community that's going to be there regardless, if you ask me about a sponsor, just in general, like you don't have that community and looking out for them, you're not going to get it unless one, so it has to be televised. That's a prerequisite. Now, do you have a following as well? Or are you just like a one-off? Again, you won't get it. You have to have a strong manager. And before you get a strong manager that is going to want to back you up and make money off you, you have to establish yourself as well. So you got to create the following. So you just got to hit it from all angles. You got to be wanted, but you also have to have your plan in the background to be able to walk away and say no, because you're wanted and you have a back plan and backup. So that makes you very valuable, right? It's like you're a wanted commodity, and then you have a lot of value, and you have a backup plan, so you're safe. You're okay with saying no, and that makes your value go up.
Well said, man. I think we covered a pretty good chunk. We hit a lot of nails on the head, like over and over and over again, but it's because they're super important, especially if you decide to make the leap or decide to go pro. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I feel like it's always good to talk this kind of stuff out because it helps us kind of be a little bit more reflective. And I know you just had a fight, and I'm going to be moving to Thailand soon, so a lot of things are always happening, And so, speaking of which, well, what do you got coming up? Anything news as we wrap up here?
We're just looking to make that next move when it comes to Muay Thai. So just keep a lookout for what the next matchup is. Let's say I said to watch out light heavyweight division because that weight cut was healthy. It was easy. I felt fucking amazing. My cardio felt better than it did at 185. So yeah, light heavyweight. Look out. Make sure you guys go to muaythaiathlete.com/heavy bag manual if you want to support both Sean and I. It's a free course. Enjoy it. And then after, it links you back to Heavy Bag Blueprint 2.0. Both the Muay Thai guys benefit from that. And then, we reinvest into the podcast and everything else that goes on. Then coming up, I don't know if you guys can see in here, Reaper Squad shirts. On the back, it says America's Finest because we are on Team USA. NACMA Nation member Paul Banasiak is on Team USA for the IFMA team in Cancun coming up this May 10th through the 19th. Team USA is going. We're trying to get the gold. We're going for the gold, baby. The first ones. We're going to try to be the first ones to get gold for Team USA. And unfortunately, our team doesn't cover that. So we're fundraising. So by the end of February, I'm going to have matching shorts and T-shirts. So Team Limitless shorts and the America's Finest tees are going to be available. That's going to be through the NACMA Nation shop. But obviously, they can go ahead and go to NACMANation.com/shop right now. Get all the sweet NACMA Nation things and anything else that you got going on. You got a million different trips. Yeah, we're gonna have one going on July and August. So if you want to take your time, you want to train with Sean and I, we're gonna be there July. We're gonna be there August. It's gonna be a badass camp in Thailand.
Yeah, I'm super pumped up about that, and So what I got going on, I'm moving to Thailand in 10 days or 9 days, something like that. I was supposed to move a couple of weeks ago, but issues with my dog's health certificate and import permit and that kind of shit. So I had to push it back a couple of weeks. But once I get there, going to get right back into, well, I've been training right now and doing a lot of strength conditioning as well. So I'll just kind of go full force, get a couple fights. And then in April, I have my camp at Diamond Muay Thai. So if you guys want to still come up there, we have Matt Fravola, who's actually a UFC fighter. He came to the first Consita camp. He's going to be coming to Diamond in April. So go to thailandtrainingcamp.com for info on that, for info on the upcoming one that Paul mentioned in July and August. I also have a retreat in May, late May and early June, May 27th to June 3rd, Muay Thai retreat.com/Costa Rica. Doing it again. It was such a good time last time. I said, fuck it, why not do it again? And then, of course, we got one in Greece as well, I've only announced this for 2 weeks and it's almost sold out. We only got like 7 spots left out of the 20. So on top of that, yeah, Liz and I are getting married on the last day of the retreat, and so you get like to be a part of a Muay Thai guy wedding too, as a part of the retreat. So it's gonna be fucking sick, and yeah, a ton of shit.
I'll figure out my way to get out there. So
hell yeah.
If you guys sign up, you'll be able to say hi as well.
Hell yeah. And then the Muay Thai guy website redesign should be live tomorrow as of this recording.
Ooh.
So yeah, that's fucking took forever. God damn it. It took like 5 months. It's supposed to be 2 months. No. And then I also have a fighter's body workout and strength and conditioning course coming out as well. Oof. A lot of shit, man. Always hustling every day.
See that, guys? You see the 70 backup plans. Yeah. Trying to become a professional fighter. Sean Fagan at 30 years old, going at it for like the prime time. Like this is it. Like it's like, oh, go for broke, but obviously you have a million things going on too. So, man, this life is fucking crazy. I'm happy, to have like-minded people around us, to have each other on this podcast, to have the people that reach out to us, that join these camps, that we get to train alongside, pass down some stuff, also learn from. I mean, that last Costa Rica retreat was amazing. And the Muay Thai one, being there for a month, 2 months, if anyone stays for longer than that, man, that's going to create some amazing relationships. I think we're going to be able to kind of foster for life. So I'm really looking forward to that. Let's do a little, we talked about like the little dark side of things. So I'm going to kind of out it when it comes to, so we talked about training pro. So this is just a little quick side note as we finish up the podcast. I kind of knew what was going to happen in the fight. Meaning,
at your boxing match.
At my boxing match. So in general terms, they call it the opponent and the contender. Yeah. So if you're the opponent, it's the guy they bring in. So I kind of put up a picture rather aggressive. I like to be very straightforward. I feel like guys staying humble and staying quiet actually make it worse for everyone else. So just because you're humble, you're quiet, fucking wise and fucking respect and all that bullshit, and you win or you learn from it. It is what it is. I think sometimes you just have to sit down and be real that there is politics in this, that some things are crooked, some things are set up a certain way. This was something that we had over Sturgos going on with Friday Night Fights before. And this is something that I kind of had the idea, but it was never said that it would happen to me. I knew I was coming in against the undefeated guy as a pro debut. So one side of the card essentially is supposed to lose, the opponent, right? So you'll see 8-0 versus 0-4. You'll see 7-3 or whatever, 7-1. You like a good record, 7-1 versus 2-9, 3-17. So in boxing, when you see these guys 22-0 with 20 knockouts, right? Do you think 22-0 with 20 knockouts is 20 knockouts against all legit contenders, especially now because there's MMA. There's MMA fighters that really are focused on MMA. On the side, they fight MMA every 3-4 months, let's say, right? MMA fighters don't fight as often as Thai fighters. So then in the middle, quick $1,500. I go in, I get beat up. Who cares? It's my boxing record. I'm focused on MMA. So then you get an MMA guy. They bring in against the boxer. The boxer gets what he gets. He may not get paid. So essentially, you're trading in your paycheck for a win, right? So, but the guy they bring in, the opponent ends up getting paid. In this case, the opponent is experienced, meaning me, right? So it's not as easy of a fight. Could it have gone for them to give him the win? Sure, but then it would have looked really, really bad, right? So there was a few fights like that the people talked about, but that's the reality of it. So it's almost like I can sit there and tell myself, you kind of knew beforehand, so there's nothing you can really fucking say. But you want to be appreciated as a fighter for the work that you put in. And I feel like this has happened twice in a row now. You know, I got brought in as the opponent in Glory on 6 days' notice. And I thought that was a pretty obvious draw and should have been a sudden death round. And now that it's happened 2 fights in a row, obviously I'm feeling rather bitter, but it is what it is. I'm not going to harp on it, but it is just something for people to consider. And in reality, like, this shit goes on. People can be sketchy sometimes. And going into the next fight, good luck to the competition because it's all being taken out on you. Yeah.
There you go. So Agnes, real quick, Paul's Reaper Squad shirts will be at nakamura.com/shop. And so will all of the other cool stuff, including his shorts that he has coming out as well.
End of February. Yeah.
End of February.
Fight style shorts, really high quality from Thailand. I spent the extra buck to get the better designs. They're going to be black and gold, matching the black and gold t-shirts. All of the profits go towards IFMA for me to get sent out with Team USA. So all of that. Maybe I'll do some like premium ones where I sign them and, you know, it's more of like a sponsorship to help out. So if you have a brand or a business, maybe we can give you a shout out and things like that for supporting Team USA's fighters.
There you go. America. So there you go. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll be back again next week. Hopefully, if all the timing works out. We always try our best. We've been good. We've been pretty good. But I'm gonna be traveling soon, so we'll try to get it in while we can and do what we can. But yeah, it was good catching up, good hearing about your fight, although it didn't work out the way that we wanted. But live and learn, go from there. And I'm excited about the future and everything that we got going on this year, man. So let's just keep hustling.
All right, everybody, Muay Thai guys, we're out. Hope you have a beautiful day. Keep training your ass off. Do your thing, baby.